Brian Martindale launched Kidneys for Kids after becoming a living kidney donor in 2013 to a 10-year-old girl who he did not know prior to seeing her story. Since then, Brian has advocated for many others as Kidneys for Kids continues its mission of seeing children receive life-saving kidney transplants.
First of all, thank you so much, Brian Martindale, for making the trek over here to our studio and sharing this space and this time with me. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, driven to find 100 kidneys for 100 kids. Brian, you're going to drive across the country to save the lives of children you've never met.
That's right.
So, your search for 100 kidneys, 100 donors, is a result of a 10-year-old girl and a kidney donation that you yourself made.
Yes.
Would you please share with us Jessica's story?
Okay. Well, Jessica's story actually begins a little before Jessica. In 2010, because of a clothing brand I own called Carmine Apparel, I was introduced to a young man who needed a kidney. Not for the sake of donating. He was a big fan of the band Tantric, and Tantric was playing in Bay City. And I had approached them and other musicians. Our clothing brand, my son and I designed, was only a year old. And we liked the same types of music, so we were approaching different musicians. And would you consider wearing our shirts on stage? Because at the time we gave 10% of the proceeds to charity. So Kevin Figueredo, Tantric's drummer at the time, wore one of my shirts, or one of our first design shirts, and invited me to the show, and that's how I met Brent Mafronbois. Brent had needed a kidney at that time for about 3 to 4 years, and he was trying to get, he didn't have health insurance, and was trying to get into the program at U of M, and driving back and forth 100 miles each way, and needing a health insurance, he needed financial help. So Hugo and Kevin's idea from Tantric was to help raise money for him using our shirts, and then they would give their band's design, and we would make a combined band shirt, sell it for Brent's benefit. Well, after getting to know him afterward at the concert, I got to know him pretty well over the next 6 months, and seeing, I'd never seen what anybody went through on dialysis up close, who needed a kidney. And seeing everything he'd been through, all the sicknesses he suffered, the big fistula in his arm looked like an extra bicep, and knowing what he was going through every day, I decided, I researched the U of M program that he was in, and found out about paired exchange, where if you don't match somebody, you can donate either in a voucher program or in a paired program. Let's say your kidney will go to somebody maybe you never meet, and in exchange you're getting a credit for the person you want to help, and the next available kidney that matches them would go to that person.
Interesting.
So that's what I was going to do for Brent. I tested anonymously without him knowing, and I found out I was cleared. I was able to donate, but unfortunately he was dismissed from the U of M program by a doctor's mistake in early 2012. And at that point, he had given me his blessing. He said, Brian, it looks like it's going to be years before I may re-qualify to get a kidney. If you can help somebody that you see, please do. And lo and behold, in September that year, I was building a physical store for our online clothing brand. We had this little experiment in downtown Bay City. And on the last day of building, I ran out of chewing gum. And I've told this story hundreds of times, but it's all true. I have a knack for chewing gum. Years ago, I was a smoker, unfortunately. I stopped and took up chewing gum. So I ran out and had to walk 3 blocks to the party store in downtown Bay City, and on the counter in front of the register was this little girl's face. And I took the paper back and read the story at the store privately, and her mother had stood in front of our Walmart with a big pink sign saying, "My daughter's in kidney failure, I can't lose her, please help." And I answered. I was just moved to call, first of all, her mom, anonymously to make sure I was blood type match, and we were blood type. So then I contacted, excuse me, the University of Michigan, and I asked to be retested specifically for Jessica Shireen. And I went through the testing again over a few week period, and they didn't give the results to me till late October, early November, that I was cleared and I could donate. Did I want to proceed? And I said, of course, I do. And then Jessica and her mom weren't notified until the day before Thanksgiving of 2012. And Stacy said in an interview right afterwards that she screamed so loud I should have heard her because we lived 4 blocks away, but we had never met. So at that point, the day before Thanksgiving, they knew they had a donor. And a friend of mine from Detroit, who had formerly been a reporter for CNN, knew I was going to donate. I kept it pretty quiet, except for family members and a few friends. And she asked if, she had seen Jessica's stories already in the newspaper, and that they knew there was a donor, but they didn't know who. And she asked if she could do an introducing interview between the two of us. She approached them and then myself. And she interviewed them first, and then brought me out, did it right in my store. And so we met in December, early December, for that interview. And then just the second time we met was the day in January 11th of 2013, that we rode together in a donated limousine down to U of M. And talked for an hour and a half, and I went off. They didn't have room. There's an inn at the University of Michigan for patients going to surgery, and they didn't have room at the inn for me. They just sent me over to the Holiday Inn next door. So I was alone that night with just my thoughts, and I didn't sleep. I waited till 5 in the morning until they took me to prep me, and 7 in the morning on January 13th, January 11th, I should say, of 2013, I became her kidney donor.
Wow.
And got to see her. That was on a Friday. They wheeled me over to Mott's Hospital because it's connected to the transplant center by bridge on that Sunday, 48 hours later. And the little girl I had ridden down with, who was very white and pale and thin, was now full of color and looked totally different than I'd seen her 48 hours ago.
Wow, wow, what a tremendous, well, thank goodness that you ran out of gum.
Yeah, it's true. I've experienced so many things. I think I was just telling before this interview, like today, since I donated, that connected me with other people who needed kidneys by chance. They introduced me to people, family members that needed kidneys that I've advocated for. So it can be like Jessica and I were just around the corner, 4 blocks away, and probably walked by each other several times, many times, over the years we lived there. And I lived in that location for probably about 3 years. And to never meet somebody that close and then become part of her life.
Yeah.
And
we've grown physically a part of her life.
Yeah. And then we started out after. We'd have an annual pizza party every year at our favorite Roma's Pizza in Bay City. And we grew close over the years until now my wife and I consider her as if she was like a daughter to us.
That's amazing.
She's at Eastern Michigan University studying to be a neuroscientist, and she's also the treasurer of our board. Not treasurer, she's the secretary of our board of directors for Kidneys for Kids.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So in addition to saving Jessica's life with your own kidney, you are now dedicated to saving the lives of children needing a life-saving transplant. So right now I want to talk about this, Kidneys for Kids. This is the nonprofit that you founded.
Yes.
How is it that you help these children and their families?
Well, first of all, foremost, I should say, our mission of Kidneys for Kids is to provide financial assistance. If a family has a child going through a transplant or going through treatment such as dialysis, and they have bills that are unpaid by insurance, Kidneys for Kids covers those with, right now, small microgrants to start, but we actually, after being an official nonprofit for less than 7 months, we just gave our first grant last Friday.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So
that's wonderful.
that is our continuing mission, is to support families financially. And I've advocated over the years since I donated several times for different, mostly adults. And last year I had successfully advocated for a friend, an adult friend, got her story on TV5 in Bay City, got it heard. And I saw the response to that story, and I thought, well, why couldn't I do something bigger? Why couldn't I do something nationally? And then the more I thought about it and talked about it with other people close to me, it's like, you donated to a child. And as I researched more, I didn't even realize, after all the years after donating, this year it's 10 years, that there are 1,100 children today on the transplant list who need a kidney today. And about 9,800 other children who are on dialysis who might or probably will need a kidney in the future.
Wow.
So when I found out those statistics, then I geared everything towards children. I still, on this trip, will actually be doing some advocating interviews for adults. I can't avoid the fact that there are 96,000 adults right now who need a kidney, and 13 people pass away every day waiting for a kidney.
13 every day.
Every day.
Just wait.
And those are just people on the list that are listed. That doesn't count people that haven't made the list or are medically ineligible that pass. So there are more than 13 a day.
The need is real.
Yes.
So back to so I want to talk to you about this cross-country trip that you are planning. So you've got a ship bolt, your course is set, you've got a mission, 100 donors. So tell me more. I mean, I need to know more details about this trip. What are you going to be doing on this trip?
Well, the trip is meant to give light to children's stories and to expose them to possible living kidney donors. That's my job, is to be a messenger. So we're scheduling in hopefully up to 50 different cities with the time frame we have this summer in the electric vehicle. We hope to carry out 50 different TV interviews, and most of them, it won't be all of them, but most will be with families with a child who needs a kidney transplant. And I'll be there to advocate and tell people that I'm 10 years out, I'm 61 years old, I do everything, I run around like a 30-year-old, just like I did when I had 2 kidneys with one. And you can do the same thing. You can live a healthy life like I do, a productive life, and share your spare with somebody else. And that's what we call it, share your spare, and save their life.
That's share your spare. I love that.
Yeah. So it's the complicated part is trying to string together different states, because we have 4 children, for example, in Texas. We have a couple children in California. We have 3 children in Florida, and then we have some states where we know there's children, but none that have, come forward and asked, could you help get our story out? So in some of the cities that I get to like that, we'll be visiting transplant centers to carry out maybe multiple stories of children and a combination of adult stories. But the goal is to, with my national exposure, I hope to get, on the average, only 1 in 50,000 people become a living donor. So that's why I have to reach such a large audience across the United States if I have hopes of actually spurring 100 people to donate a kidney to a child or an adult.
Right, absolutely. So let's pause for a moment here, because, you're going to find all of these donors, adult donors.
Yes.
But for child patients. So I guess I wasn't aware that was possible.
Yeah. And that's a big message that I'm hearing to people, that as an adult, most adults can't fathom, I should say, that you can donate to a child as young as 2. Actually, sometimes younger than 2, depending on height and weight. For example, last year when I visited the Pfaff family in Norfolk, Virginia, their son Cooper needed a kidney at that time, and we got a story done on him. Ultimately, his father became the best match, and in December, he became his son's donor. And Cooper was 21 months at the time he received the kidney. But he was big enough when I was there at 18 months. But a transplanted kidney is placed in the stomach pouch. So in a child that small, sometimes a kidney has to be removed. Most times it's left, the kidneys are left in place.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third kidney is just put right here, and then the connection is brought over to it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that's what I'm getting adults to fathom, that yes, you could save this little baby's life with your full-size kidney.
Oh, that's just wild to me. So I do have another question that I have to ask. For the gift of life that you gave with donating your kidney,
Yes.
what kind of a gift did you get in return from that?
I get a gift every time I see Jessica. Seriously, I mean, I've got to see her go through her teenage years that she, wouldn't have had normally, or been on dialysis through, and lived a very isolated life like some children I'm trying to help this summer do now. And seeing her, go through high school, we went to high school plays of her, seeing her get her college scholarship, and being there to be involved. And when she comes home and when we visit, we talk on the Zoom every time I see her. I truly do get a gift, knowing that, she came from that little girl to, she's as tall as me now, and just beautiful and so smart, and doing everything she promised me she would.
That's awesome.
So that's the gift I get.
It truly is a gift that keeps on giving.
It does, every day.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, your mission, and thank you just for helping all of us become a bit more aware now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.